Rage all they want, but 28 years later and Pixar's Elio were no match at the box office for returning champ How to Train Your Dragon. The live-action remake nabbed an estimated $37 million in its second weekend, falling 50%. Now that sounds like a steep drop-off, and it was the steepest of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, but it was close in line with the second movie. Both were mid-June releases, suggesting the drop was more a function of the time of year rather than an excessive decline in audience interest. And with a $160.5 million running tally, How to Train Your Dragon 2025 is just a hair behind the final gross of the third movie, The Hidden World, from 2019. In second place, 28 years later, grabbed an estimated $24.2 million, which was a tad higher than the openings of Civil War and Evil Dead Rise among recent comps, and easily a new high for the 28 Days Later franchise. And for 2025, that ranks as the third highest grossing debut for a horror movie so far, behind Final Destination Bloodlines and Sinners. Now, where 28 Years Later's box office ranks among zombie movies depends on what we count as zombie movies. For instance, do Evil Dead movies count? Regardless of that, World War Z ain't sweating as it sits atop the pile of reanimated corpses with its unadjusted $62.8 million opening. And now a note on the potential front-loadedness of 28 Years Later. You see, it had a substantial Thursday preview of $5.8 million, but since showtime started at 12 p.m. on that day, and it was a federal holiday, Juneteenth, that was tantamount to an opening day. And since others reporting on box office incorrectly add preview grosses to the weekend, there was this illusion that 28 Years Later was far more front-loaded than the norm. That doesn't bear out in the true daily breakdown, as you see here. It's not that different from A Quiet Place Day 1 from last June, although 28 Years Later's Sunday projection looks a bit optimistic. To be clear, 28 Years Later will be a front-loaded box office performer, but that's more due to its genre and niche appeal than anything else. In regards to audience reaction to the Zombie Legacy sequel, well, 28 Years Later scored a B on CinemaScore, which is not bad for a horror movie. If there is truth to that bad word of mouth we've been hearing about, then the follow-up, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, will have an extra hard time when it hits theaters in January 2026. Meanwhile, in third, Elio limped to $18 million, which was the worst opening ever for a Pixar movie. Don't even need to adjust for ticket price inflation to call that one, though if you do adjust, it's even more embarrassing. And to think last June, Pixar was riding to a new high with Inside Out 2. A year later, they're hitting a new low. Elemental was Pixar's previous lowest debut, and Disney is hoping Elio will leg out like Elemental. That picture started with $27.2 million and ended with $154.4 million. But that means the best case scenario for Elio would be a $110 million final gross. Onward is currently the lowest grossing Pixar movie ever at $61.6 million, not counting the straight-to-Disney Plus titles Soul, Luca, and Turning Red. But, to be fair, Onward's run was cut off prematurely by The End of the World in 2020. Now, with the failure of Elio, of course there's tons of finger pointing to go around, but let's not blame the fact that Elio was an original movie. Many are noting that there hasn't been a high-opening original animation since Coco in 2017, but isn't that really a self-fulfilling prophecy on Hollywood's part? If you devote most of your resources to franchise fare or IP, then of course that's what's going to get the biggest box office. And come on, has Hollywood really given the old college try to anything original lately? In animation, I think Coco may be the last time. And Elio may technically be original, but it sure didn't look original to potential audiences. It looked like more animated sci-fi slop in the vein of Strange World and Lightyear, two other recent flops from Disney. And sci-fi animation is traditionally a tough sell anyway. For instance, it's the 25th anniversary of Titan A.E., and even that spectacular bomb sold more tickets in its debut than Elio. Another excuse for Elio's failure is this traffic jam of family movies. It did open in the wake of How to Train Your Dragon, and Lilo and Stitch is just a month old, but mid-June is a Pixar tradition. You expect them to stray from that tradition just because they got a stinker on their hands? Let's face it, Elio would disappoint at any time of the year. It looked like a baby movie. And according to exit polling, it was a baby movie. 39% of the audience was under 12 years old versus just 20% under 12 for Inside Out 2. Now, there's some credence to Lilo and Stitch hurting Elio. I mean, isn't Elio effectively Lilo and Stitch in reverse? Stitch even had similar space animation scenes. So it is weird that the same studio, Disney, released both pictures in such close proximity to each other. And speaking of Elio's Disney stablemate, Lilo and Stitch had its best hold yet, down 38% to $9.7 million in its fifth weekend for a $386.7 million running tally. It's still the second biggest movie of 2025 behind a Minecraft movie, which had a $398.2 million total at the same point of its run, and closed out with $424. Stitch still has more summer runway, so it's still in the realm of possibility for it to beat Minecraft. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning rounded out the top 5, down 38% to $6.55 million. With a $178.4 million running tally, this eighth mission has now surpassed Dead Reckoning Part 1's $172.6 million final gross, no longer the nadir of the franchise. And here's the rest of the top 10. Notably, Materialists attracted $5.8 million in its second weekend, down 41%. With $23.9 million in total, it's a decent run by A24 standards. Offering an alternative to the franchise slop is appreciated, even if the movie itself doesn't deliver for everyone. Overall, the weekend was down 18% from last year when Inside Out 2 was dominating. In fact, the only slower third weekends in June were from 2020 to 2023 in terms of attendance. And a note that the numbers in this report are studio estimates from Sunday and are subject to change on Monday when actual grosses will be reported. And for more updates, be sure to subscribe to Box Office Revival. This has been Brandon Gray, creator of Box Office Mojo. Thank you for watching.